Sometimes I still count nights without meaning to. It's strange. I'll be lying in bed and my brain just starts counting. 1, 2, 3. Like I'm still there. Like nothing really changed. And for a second, I feel that same quiet again. Let me go back a bit. I didn't grow up thinking I'd end up in a prison cell. Honestly, my life was pretty average. I had a job, paid my bills, complained about small things like everyone else. I wasn't reckless, not in an obvious way. If anything, I thought I was being careful. That's what I used to tell myself anyway. Looking back, the problem wasn't one big mistake, it was a bunch of small ones, the kind you justify in the moment. I won't lie, the first time I crossed the line, I knew it wasn't right, but it didn't feel serious. It felt manageable, like something I could control. And when nothing bad happened right away, that made it easier the next time. At the time, I kept telling myself it wasn't hurting anyone, or at least not enough to matter. That's how it starts, I think. You shrink the consequences in your head until they don't look real anymore. You turn something wrong into something temporary, something you'll fix later. The day I got arrested didn't feel like the end of anything. It felt confusing more than anything else. There was no chaos, no dramatic moment, just people showing up, asking questions, putting things together faster than I expected. I remember standing there thinking, this doesn't match what I did, like the situation had somehow grown bigger than the truth. Honestly, I was more embarrassed than afraid at first. I kept thinking about how it looked from the outside, what people would say, how I'd explain it. I didn't even realize yet that explanations weren't going to matter anymore. Then came the waiting, the paperwork, the silence in between conversations. That's when things started to settle in. Not all at once, just little pieces. Every hour it became harder to pretend this was temporary, harder to believe I could talk my way out of it. My first night in the cell, I didn't sleep at all. I sat on the edge of the bed and just stared at the wall. It wasn't fear exactly. It was more like my thoughts didn't know where to go. Everything felt stuck. The air, the time, even me. There were sounds I couldn't ignore. Someone coughing somewhere down the hallway, metal doors opening and closing, footsteps that came and went without warning, and keys, always the sound of keys. That sound stayed with me longer than anything else. What surprised me the most was what I thought about. It wasn't the crime, not really. It was normal things, random moments from before, sitting on my couch, checking my phone, talking to someone without realizing it might be the last time things felt normal. That's when it hit me, quietly. My life hadn't ended in some dramatic moment. It ended on an ordinary day. No warning, no clear line. Just a shift I didn't take seriously until it was too late. After a few days, I started counting nights. I don't even know why. Maybe because the days all felt the same. They blended together until I couldn't tell one from another. But nights were different. They were slower, heavier. During the day, you can distract yourself, follow routines, keep your face neutral, act like you're adjusting. But at night, there's nothing to hide behind. It's just you, sitting there with everything you've been avoiding. By the time I reached night 10, I stopped thinking someone would fix this. By night 30, I stopped trying to replay everything in a way that made me look better. And somewhere around night 50, I realized something I didn't want to admit. This wasn't just bad luck. This was me. By the time I reached night 100, counting had become automatic. I didn't even think about it anymore. I'd just lie down, stare at the ceiling, and somewhere in my head the number would update. One more night gone, one more I couldn't get back. It sounds simple, but it started to feel heavy, like each number meant something I hadn't fully faced yet. Honestly, the hardest part wasn't the routine. You get used to that. Wake up, move when you're told, eat when it's time, keep your space in order. It becomes mechanical.
What doesn't get easier is the quiet moments in between, the ones where nothing is happening and your mind starts going places you can't avoid. Looking back, I spent a long time trying to soften what I'd done. Not out loud, but inside my own head. I'd tell myself it wasn't that serious or that other people had done worse. I'd compare, adjust, shrink it down. But every time I did that, it felt less convincing. There was one night, I don't remember the exact number, maybe somewhere in the 200s, where that stopped working. I was sitting there, same as always, and I tried to go through the usual explanations, and they just didn't hold anymore. For the first time, I didn't interrupt the thought. I let it finish. I knew what I did, and I knew I understood it back then, too. I just chose to ignore it. That realization didn't hit all at once. It settled in slowly, like something you can't unsee once it's there. And after that, the counting felt different. It wasn't just time passing. It was time I had spent avoiding the truth about myself. Some nights were still worse than others. Not dramatic, just heavier. You'd remember a specific moment, something small, like a conversation where you could have made a different choice, and it would stick with you longer than you expected. Not because it was big, but because it was clear. I won't lie, regret doesn't feel the way people describe it. It's not this constant, overwhelming emotion. It comes in waves. Some days you function almost normally, and then something small triggers it, and it's like you're right back at the beginning, seeing everything again without excuses. By the time I got close to night 1000, the numbers started to blur again, but in a different way. Not because I stopped caring, but because I understood what they meant. It wasn't about reaching some final number and feeling different. There wasn't a moment where everything suddenly made sense. Night 1000 didn't feel special. I remember that clearly. I lay there like any other night, and the number just landed. 1000. I thought it would mean something more, some kind of shift, but it didn't. It felt quiet, almost empty. And that's when it really settled in. Time doesn't erase what you did. It just gives you more space to understand it. Even now, being out, I still catch myself counting sometimes. Not every night, but enough to notice. And when it happens, I don't stop it right away. I just let the number pass through my head. Because in a strange way, those nights are still with me. And so is everything I finally stopped pretending not to see.